Charlie Dickens, chapter 55, entitled Home. Tinker looked down at his extremely grey trousers and his heart sank. He knew that he would be in trouble when his dad saw the state they were in. His dad was always complaining about how much he had spent on his son's clothing and even school uniform. Tinker felt like he was a burden and he brushed the ash off his trousers as he walked, but it was of no use, they were uncleanable. Charlie didn't say much. He was embarrassed that he hadn't waded into the slurry. He had wanted to, but he was afraid. I looked down at his hands and I could see that they were red with the burning of the rope. He felt incredibly tired. Dog tired, he thought to himself, and he couldn't help but smile. I'm glad that the dog got out safe, he said to Tinker, before they parted on the usual street corner. Me too, said Tinker. See you tomorrow, he said, and he went home to face the consequences. Tinker closed the door as quietly as possible, and he crept upstairs as silent as a thief. He looked down, and to his horror the hardened clay was falling from his trousers like crumbling confetti, and he wanted to make it to the usual safety of his bedroom, just before his dad saw the state of his expensive, ruined trousers and the peppered carpet. His dad hated waste, and he especially hated wasting money, as it was money that he could have spent on himself. To him, cigarettes and booze were much more important than anything Tinker needed. He couldn't wait for him to go out and earn a living so that he could give most of it to him, and then his dad would have even more money for booze and fags. No matter how carefully Tinker stepped, the stairs creaked like an old piano, and it was only a matter of time before his dad caught him and demanded an explanation. Halfway up the stairs it happened. Where do you think you're going so sneakily? His dad said with a drink already in his hand. Oh, I'm tired, said Tinker. I need to lie down. You're not going anywhere, he said angrily, surveying the state of his clothes and the mess on the carpet. It looked like a Jackson Pollock. Father said before he could answer, he had grabbed Tinker tightly by his black hair and he had his face down in the mud-splattered carpet. Tinker couldn't breathe, and all that went into his nostrils was the sewer-like smell of the slurry which covered the brand-new carpet and still fell from his ruined trousers, no matter how much he didn't want it to. He wanted, and finally his dad relented, and Tinker lifted his head up to take a much-needed breath. He only had a few seconds of peace before his dad came back with a cloth and bucket. Clean it up, he said, into Tinker's bruised red and sweaty face. The smell in his dad's breath was almost as overpowering as the smell from the carpet. Tinker dipped the cloth into the ice-cold water, and he began to scrub at the ruined carpet. Tinker felt guilty at the state of his trousers, and he began to wonder if it was all his fault. That was until he was winded by a mighty punch into his stomach. As he killed over like a newborn lamb, he heard his dad say, "That will teach you for being so stupid." And then he walked away to the sloshing of the whiskey in the glass. That night, when he crept into bed, his sides were purple, and he rolled over slowly, and he wondered what kind of evening Charlie was having. I bet it's not as bad as mine, he thought sadly, and he couldn't stop the tears from falling. It was rare for him to cry, but he couldn't help himself. He wished his mum was here, but he knew that she would never come back. His dad had paid to that. He had driven her away with his drinking and his fists. Tinker held on to his pillow for comfort, and he wished that sleep would come quickly. His last thought was of Charlie, and he knew that he needed his friendship to survive and vice versa. He'd never told Charlie about his troubles at home. As far as he knew, he had the perfect home life.